Algebra 2, 4.5, Part 1 Notes, Quadratic Functions and Equations. First of all, go ahead and do the warm-up. Use the equation to do numbers 1, 2, and 3. So go ahead and pause your video, see if you can do those 3. All right, as we learned in 4.4, factoring, that's where you're going to break up this x squared minus xx plus 8. We haven't seen it quite look like this yet in an equation, but this is kind of where we're going to be headed. Okay, number 2, find the vertex. Remember, you do the negative b over 2a. Once you get that value, that's your axis of symmetry. Plug that value in to get your y value. Okay, and then finally graph. So your starting point is that vertex, 3, negative 1. And then you can make that set of points. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. And then the only thing is we're starting at this new vertex. That's like our new 0, 0. So we're going to go 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. And then the other side is just the mirror image of it. So looking at our graph, do the factors mean anything to the graph? So if we look back to that step 1, how can we connect those factors over to the graph? So I've got negative 4 and negative 2, it looks like. So do we have something with negative 4 and negative 2? We don't have something with negative 4 and 2, but we have something with 4 and 2. Making them both positive. So what did we do? That's just what we're going to work on today. So when we have these zeros, these are called the zeros because they cross the x-axis. What we're going to do today is we're going to set this equation equal to 0 instead of equal to y. And then we're going to let each factor equal 0. Okay? And then your answers would be 4 and 2. On today's Go Formative, I'm going to want you to write it in using the brace and then 2, 4, no spaces. So just to get used to, those are our solutions. So it's not an ordered pair, it's going to be the solutions. All right, so let's get a little bit more in depth in that. So what are the zeros of the function? This is going to be any time that function crosses the x-axis. So there would be 1, here's 1. This one's got 2 of them. Okay, it could have none, could have more than that. So to find the zeros of a quadratic function, we're going to take our equation y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and then set it equal to 0, okay, instead of y. And then remember the zero product property. If you have a factor times another factor, that's like our a times b, then one of them has to equal 0 or both of them have to equal 0. Okay, so let's practice a couple. What are the solutions to the quadratic equation x squared minus 7x equals negative 12? So what we're going to do is set it equal to 0. So right now I have x squared minus 7x equals negative 12. Think about how would you make that equal 0? We need to move that 12 to the other side. So we're going to get x squared minus 7x plus 12. Now we can say equals 0. And then this whole section is going to be solving these by factoring. There's several methods to solve quadratics. We're going to focus mainly on 2 of them. I guess 3 if you think of the graph too. But factoring in quadratic formula. All right, we can break it up x and x. So now we're thinking of numbers that multiply to be 12. Since there's no a value here, it's just a 1. We don't need to figure out the inside and the outside. We can kind of use that shorter version. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Which ones make 7? So the only pair that can somehow make 7 is the 3 and 4. So I'm going to put 3 and 4. How would I make a 7? Negative 7. So the middle would be 3x. The outside would be 4x. We've got to have them both be negative. All right, so we're going to solve this quadratic by factoring, but the factors themselves are not our answer. So now what I need to do is set each of these factors equal to 0. And then solve. So how could I solve this? We could just add the 3 to both sides. And add the 4 to both sides. And then again, on today's GoFormative, I want you to write them as like a set, the set of numbers that work. So we're going to use the brace, 3, 4, and then that bracket. All right, let's try some more. Why don't you guys go ahead and pause your video and try number 4. All right, this one was multiply to be 12 again, but add or subtract to be 4, so it had to be 6 and 2. Okay, so then if your factors are x plus 6, your answer should be negative 6. X minus 2, your answer should be positive 2. So those would be your answers. All right, let's remind how to do this if the A does have a number in front of it. So again, we want to set it equal to 0. So move that 14 to the other side by subtracting. Then we can get ready to factor. So 2x squared, we can break that up into 2x and x. And now multiply to be 14. Here's where we got to do some guess and check. 1 and 14, 2 and 7 would be our only choices. So if we put 2 there and 7 there, that wouldn't give us what we want, because that's going to be either 16 or 12. So let's try something different. Okay, let's try flipping it around. 7 and 2. So there's 7, and here we've got 4. Yeah, I can get a 3 out of that. So how would I get a 3 out of that? Well, we need the 7 to be the negative and the 4 to be the positive. All right, so now that I have my factors, I'm going to set my factors each equal to 0. Now this first one, this is one I see mistakes on a lot. Students want to just say that the answer should be 7, but that won't quite be right, okay? Because you need to solve for x is what we're doing. So we need to add 7 and then divide by 2. Okay, and then if you get a fraction, just go ahead and leave it as a fraction. X equals 7 over 2. So on today's assignment, make sure you write your answers as fractions instead of decimals. All right, so then our answers would be negative 2 and then 7 over 2. All right. Okay, 6 and 7. Number 6, we can take out, before we ever even start factoring, we can take out the greatest common factor. It's already equal to 0, so that first step's kind of done for us already. But notice that I can take a 5x out of this. So if I take out a 5x, what are we left with? So in your head, kind of imagine like reverse distributive property. I want to divide each of these terms by 5x. So 5 over 5 would cancel. X squared over x would just be left with an x. 35 divided by 5 would be a 7. X over x cancels. And then keep the sign. And it seems like you should do more work than that, but that's it for the factoring. So now you can jump to setting your equation equal to 0, or your factors. Now if you pull the number out in front, the greatest common factor, if it has an x term with it, you need to set that one equal to 0. If you just pull out a 5, it's not going to equal 0, so you don't need that. But if you have an x there, you do need to set that one equal to 0. And then 0 divided by 5 is still 0. Okay, for the second one, x equals negative 7. So negative 7 and 0. All right, number 7 is similar to this one, where you need to first take out the greatest common factor and then factor. So why don't you pause the video, try number 7. So first set equal to 0, what's the greatest common factor? See if you can come up with it. All right, so we could take a 2x out. If we did that, we would be left with an x squared plus 5x plus 6. So then we can factor that further, break it up in x, and then we want it to multiply to be 6 and add to be 5. So x plus 2, x plus 3. So then finally we can set them each equal to 0. So set 2x equal to 0, set x plus 2 equal to 0, and set x plus 3 equal to 0. So divide by 2, we get x equals 0. Subtract 2, x equals negative 2. Subtract 3, x equals negative 3. So if you had one like this on the assignment, you would put, I always like to put them in order from least to greatest, but it doesn't matter. Just make sure you put the bracket. Okay, last one. Write a quadratic equation with the given solutions, -4 and 5. So it's kind of like we're working backwards. So if our answer is -4, x equals -4, and our other answer is x equals 5, we want to first move that 4 back with the x. So it's going to be x plus 4 equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0. Then we can multiply them. Then it wanted an equation, so we'll go ahead and let it equal y. And then finally we can FOIL. So we're going to go first. Let's see, I'll do it in colors here. First, so x squared. Then we've got outside. X times -5. Don't forget the negative there. Minus 5x. And then we go to inside. Plus 4x. And then last. Minus 9. So it's going to become y equals x squared minus x minus 9. Okay, if you went through and factored that, you should get the same answers, -4 and 5. All right, your assignment today is on GoFormative. So I'll show you how to do that quick if you don't know how to do that. If you already have done GoFormative, you can just get started right now. But I know I have several new people this trimester. So if you need help finding it, I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so if you go to your Canvas page for Algebra 2, you should see under Tuesday, 4.5 Part 1 Notes and Assignment. And then if you've never done this yet, you need to highlight the code of the class that you're in. If you switch classes, I can switch it for you. You don't need to join the new class. I think I should be able to switch for you. But if you have not joined GoFormative yet, go ahead and highlight the proper class and then click on the link. Should be able to enter your code. Once you do that, you'll be able to go to 4.5 Part 1 Assignment. And I took these problems just right from your textbook. So feel free, if you can't read some of them, you can look in your textbook. And then remember that we're going to write our answers with the braces. So if I do this first one, x squared plus 6x plus 8, and I want to factor that, that would be x plus 2 times x plus 4. So my answers would be -2 and then -4. And then if you watch up here at the red dot, when I type in this last bracket, it should turn green. So if I put a bracket, there we go. The green dot symbolizes that you have it correct. Okay? So let me know if you guys need any help. I will be here for office hours today. So feel free to pop in the Zoom and join. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.